Okay, inverse operations. And this is what I want you to make sure you write in your notebook. I want you to write inverse operations. Because I feel like people are still forgetting what that is. And remember, inverse means opposite. Two days in, I shouldn't still have to say the word opposite. So we have addition and subtraction. So when we have an addition problem, the inverse is subtraction. When we have a subtraction problem, the inverse is addition. Before I forget, I'm going to show you the picture. So I'll double check. I'm pretty sure he goes at the same time as me, 11:30.
11:30?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'll double check.
Okay.
Then we have multiplication and division. So multiplication the inverse of multiplication is division. And the inverse of division is multiplication. And I want you to make sure you write the whole thing down, because once we will move into 2 steps next week, you'll see problems that have addition and multiplication. You'll see problems that have maybe subtraction and division. So you need to make sure you know what the inverse is. Am I good to erase? Okay, let's go ahead and look at problem number 1 and 2. So these are just practice problems from Monday and Tuesday. So I want you to go ahead and work these out on your own. I want to see, okay, Luisa, ahora lo vuelvo a compartir. I want to see how you're doing with this before we move forward to multiplication and division. Those of you at home, you're doing it on your computer. I want to see how you're doing with this. You can. Yes, you can do it in your notebook and then write it on the computer. That is fine. I want to see you using the balance method, not the bar. Remember, our goal is to get the B by itself.
You did not write that one down.
What's the first thing you have to do before you can start working on that? Now, what do we need to get by itself?
Obviously, then we can see it. Okay, so the first thing you do is you find your So this one is representing the other equal. This is 1/2 of the balance. You know, the scales. This is 1/2 of the scales, the other half of the scale. And you can make sure that this is a scale, that's a scale, this is a balance. So this one you do to find the variables. So you do
Remember, the first thing you need to do is write that line through that equal side so that you can create that balance. Marisol, pay attention, be careful. You worked out the top right, but remember it's negative 27 plus 15. The numbers should not be getting bigger. Garniel, no estoy viendo nada. Ángel, tampoco estoy viendo nada. Alan, Albin, I'm not seeing anything. Yvonne, it looks good so far. Emily, same thing for you. You worked it out fine on top. You have negative 27 plus 15, but your answer does not reflect. Junior, yours looks good. Luisa, va bien. William, you haven't finished the first one, so you shouldn't be moving on to the second one.
And as the problems get harder, the quicker you can do this. Because later on, these problems will just have a really good form now. So I can read so try the next one on your own. Let's see. So.
Yair, thank you. Nice job. You can move on to the second one. Marisol, much better. You can move on to the next one. Garniel, Ángel, estoy al quitarlos de ahí. Albin, good start. Keep going. Alan, igual para ti. Yvonne, it looks good so far. Write the answer. Junior, keep going. It looks good so far. Good answer on number 2. Emily, good on number 1. Luisa, los pasos están bien. Nada más necesito ver la respuesta.
Make sure that you're putting a sign with it, like you're adding or subtracting a number.
Okay, I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds to make sure you finish those up. And then I'm going to ask you to clamshell your computer. If you finish both of them, go ahead and already have yours clamshell.
So this 16, what am I doing? Adding or subtracting?
Not the same thing.
No, you said the same thing, you just put press one. How many people can be texting you?
That's my point. Okay, so our 30 seconds are up. So make sure your laptops are clamshelled and you're looking up here. If you don't have an example in your notebook, make sure you copy one of these down. Okay, so we talked about our inverse. We said addition is the inverse of subtraction. Subtraction is the inverse of addition. So we have v minus 15 equals negative 27. So our goal is to get the v by itself. So the only way to get our v or our variable by itself is to get rid of that 15. How can I get rid of that 15? By what? By adding 15. I can't subtract 15 because then it'll just get bigger. So remember, you're going to do it on both sides because it's a balancing scale. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other. So minus 15 plus 15 gives me 0, so I'm going to cross it out and bring down my v. This is where I saw people having trouble. Not because they didn't do this part right, but because when they worked it out, they weren't putting that negative sign. Negative 27 plus 15 should give us what? Negative 12. So V equals negative 12. For those of you that were getting answers like 47, if I were to check my answer and I plug it in, so I have negative 12 minus 15 equals negative 27. If I work this out, what is negative 12 minus 15? What does that give me? Plug it in. It gives me negative 27. Is that equal to negative 27? Yes. So that means negative 12 was correct. If I had put 42 minus 15 would have given me what? It would have probably given me just positive 27, which wouldn't have been right because it would have been looking at a positive and a negative, and just because it's the same number doesn't mean it's correct because the signs would have been wrong. Okay, let's look at the second one. Same thing. We're trying to get the n by itself. So we have n plus 16 equals 9. How do I get rid of that 16? Negative 16 or minus 16. So whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So plus 16 minus 16 gives me 0. I bring down my n. What is 9 minus 16? Negative 7. And that should have been my final answer. So whatever you have, go ahead and click submit on it. And we're going to move on to multiplication. Okay, so we're sticking to our balance system. We're not going to go back to the bars. So we're going to start by looking at 3x equals 12. So I want you to make sure you have 3x equals 12 in your notebook as an example. You can title it One Step Multiplication. Because I can't spell. So 3x equals 12. We still have to keep it balanced. It doesn't matter if it's addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So the first thing I'm going to do is line through the equal sign. Okay, so we said that the inverse of multiplication is what? It is division. So I'm going to go ahead and just write it up here so I don't forget. The inverse of multiplication is division. When I have a number next to a variable, what does this mean is happening? It's being multiplied. So I need to do the inverse in order to get rid of it. What is the inverse of multiplication again? Division. So I'm going to divide 3x by 3. And again, whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. So I'm going to divide the other side by 3. If I divide 3 by 3, what does it give me? It gives me 1. So I'm just going to bring down that x. I'm going to cross out 3 and 3. Remember that x has an imaginary 1 in front. If you feel comfortable putting 1 in front of it, you can. I'm not going to. What is 12 divided by 3? It is 4. Si en algún momento en casa necesitan que diga algo en español porque estoy yendo muy rápido o no entienden algo, por favor déjenme saber. I may just do this next problem in Spanish-ish. Okay, so we have 7x equals 63. So I need to get that x by itself. Necesito que la x se quede sola. So, ¿qué es lo opuesto de multiplicación? What is the opposite of multiplication? It is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 7. What is 7 divided by 7? What? It's 1. 7 dividido por 7 me da 1. So voy a bajar la X. What is 63 divided by 7?
1.5.
What?
What?
63 divided by 7.
9.
Thank you. I'm like, I know it's not a decimal.
I put 36.
63 dividido por 7 me da 9.
I thought you were doing the second one.
So, X
That's what I thought.
X me da 9. I'm like, I know I chose simple numbers for our practice problems.
Yeah, I had to do it.
We're not in the decimals yet. Okay, go ahead and do the third one on your own. Hagan el tercero ustedes solo.
Oh, you did it already. Keep on.
Why? What if you
Make sure, just like you saw me, you're rewriting. You need to get into that habit. Next week we get into two-step problems. If you don't rewrite, you will miss something.
That's awesome.
Pero, yeah,
Okay, so the last one. Again, we have to get x by itself. So what did we do in order to make that happen? Divide it by 4. And what we did on one side, we did on the other. So 4 divided by 4 gave me 1. 6 divided by 4 gave me 1.5.
that way you don't forget. Between yesterday and today is that when they're rewriting numbers, they're not putting their plus or minus, they're not putting that they're dividing, they're not putting their multiplying, it's really important that they do that. So, of course, they can show the division like you were doing there as a fraction, or they're not showing it there, it's 5, the wrong thing, so, yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Something
just
that
keep
they-
talking about
I
it.
gotta keep talking, yeah.
Okay, so clamshell it. We're not doing this one on our own. Not yet. Okay, so we have 1/4 x equals 7. My pencil writers, drop it. 1/4 x equals 7. What's happening with that 1/4 x? It's what? It's multiplying. So what do I need to do the opposite? I need to divide by 1/4. And whatever I do on one side, I do to the other. So what is 7? Well, this will give me 1. So I bring down my x equals, what is 7 divided by 1/4? 28. Now, and I know I noticed it, but I haven't been openly saying it. You need to make sure if you're dividing, you're either doing, so if it's something like this, you're either doing, pay attention, you're either putting that line underneath to show me you're dividing, or you're putting divided by and the number. If you're adding, so if it's something like x plus 2 equals 18, and you have to subtract, you need to make sure you're putting -2, -2, because what I'm seeing is this. You're putting, oh, I know I'm subtracting, so I put a 2 here, and I cross it out, and then I put a 2 over here, and then guess what happens? X equals 20, because I forgot I was supposed to be subtracting. You need to put your signs. You need to put addition, you need to put subtraction, you need to put division, you need to put multiplication. It takes one more second to make sure you get the right answer, not the wrong one. And just like we did on this last quiz where I gave you points for your work, if you're not including this in your work, I won't be giving you points for it. I might be subtracting points for it. So let's go ahead and look at number 2. So now we have x over 2. What does that mean is happening? It's dividing. We're dividing x by 2. So what is the inverse? Multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 2. I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. So this is going to go ahead and cancel itself out. What is 5 times 2? 10. Why do I have an extra on this today? Make sure you have either one or both of them written in your notebook before I move on. At home, same thing. Okay, Ruby, I will reshare my screen. What is up today, people? Oh, because you joined late. That's why. Okay, Ruby, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to write it down, and then I'm going to erase and move on. I want to be able to do the same thing today that I've been doing the last 2 days. Give you time for classwork and then go into some extra practice. Ruby, I just reshared it. Can you still not see it? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay, go ahead and do these 2 on your own. Hold on, you're going to see your screen change for like a hot second. I'll bring it back. Oh, not here. Yes or no? Can you see my screen?
No tienes que ¿qué está haciendo el medio de forma? Entonces, en respecto a la ley. Entonces, ¿qué es este cuarto solución? ¿Qué está haciendo con él? ¿Está dividiendo con él o está multiplicando? Está multiplicando con él, ¿ves? Está multiplicado porque está al lado de él, está multiplicando. Ahora, ¿qué la diferencia es que ahí qué está pasando? Ahí aquí se está dividiendo para la fracción, ¿verdad? Es diferente. Entonces, tú tienes que ver qué está haciendo a la hora de la X, que está multiplicando y está dividiendo. En este caso tenemos que ver qué está haciendo la X, multiplicando, exactamente. Entonces, no sé cómo. No sé cómo.
Okay, so I'm gonna go over it. Now the only reason I'm gonna go over it is because I'm not 100% sure everybody at home has got it. But I saw everybody in here, it looked good. So I'm putting my line down the middle. 4/5 x. What do I need to do? What's the inverse? Divide by 4/5 on both sides. This gives me 1, so I bring down my x. What is 12 divided by 4/5? What?
9.6.
You read the second problem.
Oh.
Because I know you had it. So x equals 15. If I do my second problem, same thing. What is the inverse? And I divide on both sides. This gives me 1, so I bring down my x. What is 8 divided by 3/4? 10 and 2/3. Okay, it is 9:58. Go ahead and work on your classwork. Those of you at home, those of you here, you're working on your classwork. We are going to come back at 10:15 to do some extra practice problems. So you're working on your classwork. En casa están trabajando en su classwork hasta las 10:15. Si a las 10:15 no han terminado su trabajo, siguen trabajando. Alan y Carlos, asegúrense que tienen que tener el de lunes, martes y hoy. El lunes se van a estar sentando conmigo a la hora del almuerzo y el desayuno para terminar todo su trabajo. I'll print it out. I'm going to give you some blackboards with you and I'm going to do some work for you. Your classwork should be super simple. You're just putting in order the steps that you're supposed to take. Which one of those you drag it over? Which one would be the second step? Which one would be the third step? I think you only have 4 slides to do. it might be a good idea to work them out on a sheet of paper and then match it up with what's on the screen.
Your tissues on the floor.
I think we should,